Welcome to Fuckup Nights, Ask Me Anything online version, episode 3, with today's special guest, Arnold Yescas. Really looking forward to this discussion today, and I think that everyone's going to take something out of it. It's very timely. I describe you, just recently met you through Mona Musa, our Fuckup Night alumni speaker, volume 2. And we had a quick chat on the phone. It was fantastic, and I really look forward to digging a little deep because there's some stuff there that I think is going to be relevant to the audience. Fuck-Up Nights started a number of years ago in Mexico City, and I've used the story before that no good story has ever begun with "let's go out for a salad." A number of individuals were out drinking mezcal, and they realized that the more and more they drank, more and more the truth came out, and they started realizing that we can all be hero worshippers and we can follow in people's footsteps, but the reality was the failures and the honesty and the openness and the humility was the things that they learned from, and they realized they weren't alone. So the whole process was really great. So we have an audience of people participating and watching today. Looking forward to, again, simply that, truth, honesty, and vulnerability in order to share. And when we had the discussion, I thought it'd be great to get you on the audience. You've come out of it. As you can see by my shirt, I am super qualified to participate in as a host, and I could be on that side of the thing over and over and over all day. So I've got the scars to prove it. Being an entrepreneur, it's not easy, but I admire anybody that does it. The community has embraced Waterloo Region. We are not where we want to be. We'd rather be in a room right now, having beer and pizza, and sharing stories, and both comments and laughter and the relief of hearing that people made it on the outside, but so be it. We've been dealt a shitty hand as it relates to COVID, and we're doing our best to keep people engaged and connected. The community, as I said, is embraced. So we have a couple people in particular, Jason Hines from Bearskin on Par, a friend and an IP lawyer who has stepped up and said, anything I can do to assist you. I love this. It resonates with me. McKelly Greco, who's a realtor in town, who has gone to seminars and read books and different things and realized that the fuck-up theme really spoke to him, and he was really interested in it. And basically, if we were together in a room right now, he would have bought us beer and pizza. We love McKelly, but it would have been great. And as well, Janet Holmes Consulting. If you've been on our site lately, Janet Holmes, who's watching now, hi Janet, and participating, does visual representation of talks. So we've all been in presentations before, and you spend hours and hours coming up with a strategy, and you get a 25-page document, and everyone looks and goes, that's amazing. And it goes in the bottom drawer, and no one fulfills it. But Janet's done a really good job, and she's doing this for you and for us today, capturing our talk, and there will be a visual representation of our discussion with the highlights and the journey to the fuck-up and where we come from there. So we'd like to thank Jason, McKelly, and Janet for their participation. So, Arnold.
Ask me away. Let's do this.
First and foremost, how are you handling COVID?
Honestly, just like most people, it was probably very scary at the beginning, which it was for me, just not knowing what was going to happen or how long this pandemic was going to last. And of course, as an entrepreneur, you worry about your business and what the effects are going to be. But over time, obviously, we did shut down our business for the time period. We actually are still shut down at the moment. But I started kind of making the best of it. I used this time to be with my son, be with my family. We went on adventures. We drove to cities that we've never heard of, and we really got to bond. So we did make the best out of this pandemic, out of the shitty situation that was given to us. Like I said, I'd love to be sharing a pizza and a beer, but of course we got to deal with the cards that were given to us, so we make the best of it. So honestly, I really can't complain. I'm healthy, my family's healthy, so I'm grateful for that, for sure. But it was a bit of a scary situation at the beginning, just not knowing what the heck was going on, because it happened so rapidly, and we're all running around like headless chickens. Like, what the heck are we going to do next? What's this going to happen for our business? Am I going to get COVID-19? Like we had no idea, right? So it was really scary at first, but I think we handled it pretty well. And like I said, I'm pretty grateful for how things are right now, for sure. So.
Good to hear. Thank you for sharing that, and glad you're doing well.
Thank you.
So, I've talked to you. People watching it might be all your friends and family, and no new people. But if there is anyone that's watching that doesn't know who you are, just tell me a little bit about you and your journey up to your career, and maybe right up to the point of what you would deem as as a fuck up.
Okay. And before I even get into that, I just want to say thank you for having me on here, of course. Like, it's a huge pleasure to be on here. I've obviously followed fuck ups for quite a bit now, and I think it's very great to showcase, obviously, the fuck ups prior to like some sort of success, because it can be very inspiring. And myself, which I'll get to the fuck ups, but myself, you dwell on those fuck ups, and sometimes they sit on you very heavily. So it's nice to be able to hear someone else's fuck ups and hear how they were able to move on from it, and it can definitely be an inspiring thing. So I appreciate
therapy.
that.
Welcome
It
to
really
the therapy
is, right? Because like
session.
we always hear and we always see like flashy people with money and these nice cars, and right, we don't get to see the other side of the iceberg, I guess is what they say, right? Like all the fuck ups that led them to that. But a little bit about me, I guess we'll talk about that more
That's good.
after. So I come from a small country called Nicaragua, and I hold that country so dear to my heart. I love it to death. I can honestly just travel to Nicaragua for the rest of my life, and I'll be very content with that. I say that just because I moved there from a very young age. So traveling back and forth with my family and be able to see my cousins and to taste the food, I just love the culture there. So I've been Canada my whole life, I guess I'll say. And then I grew up very blessed. Like I have two solid parents. I have a brother, two sisters. We grew up very close with each other. I grew up loving sports, soccer. I'm a soccer fanatic. I also like basketball, music, all the good stuff in life. So with that being said, growing up through elementary school, I was a pretty good kid, I would say. You know, I came home every day. I listened to my mom. If she's watching, she's like, "Yeah, fucking right. This guy's such a liar. He was such a piece of shit." I guarantee she'd be
You
saying
gotta
that.
say what you gotta say. I get it.
I was a good kid. And then I guess kind of towards high school is where I started to kind of be a little bit more rebellious. I started skipping classes. I failed like a lot of classes. I'll say that honestly. So that's kind of where I maybe started drifting to a different direction. But from when I was a child, I always did really like cooking for some reason, even though I was like super picky. I only like chicken fingers and potatoes and fries. And my son's the same way, and it makes me go freaking insane. But anyways, so I always liked it. I never actually thought I would go towards that direction, but I remember that I'd always make my mom like these weird little wraps with like the fake bacon bits that you buy at the store and like cream cheese. And like, I guess it was kind of just in my blood, I guess I'd say. So in high school, I did pick up like a part-time cooking job at a Krabby Joe's. Actually, I started as a dishwasher when I was 15. And then in 3 months, I started, they promoted me to a line cook, which is a big mistake on their behalf because I was an idiot when I was 15. Like, I was trying to cook like the chicken wings, and I had no care in the world. And like, I told myself I won't hold back when I go on the show. Like, I'm just gonna let it all. Like, I would always show up like stoned out of my mind, and they probably hated me because I was that 15-year-old kid who would come in with like bloodshot eyes and would take like 30 minutes to fry 1 pound of like chicken wings. So it was a really weird start to my career. But that is how I started. I just looked at it as a part-time job at the time. And it was kind of fun though at the same time. But it was a little bit after that when I started doing like my co-op at a Caesar Martini's. If you guys remember Caesar Martini's, a like classic bar up in Waterloo. That's where they started actually kind of experimenting with a little bit more food, and they were breaking down like actual big meats. And I was still like a little shithead at the time. Like I was still showing up like stoned and blah, blah, whatever. But that's where I kind of started experimenting with a lot more food. And that's where I kind of actually started to get like a bit of a passion for it. And then from there on out, I kind of just started working my way up through a bunch of restaurants. And I guess I just honestly fell into it. Even though I loved it, I never thought I'd actually be like a chef when I was younger. I just sort of kind of fell into it. And over the years, I kind of started maturing when I had my son at 19, which of course was a huge milestone in my life. I guess I could talk about that a little bit more. So I had my son when I was 19. I was obviously very young. It was with a girlfriend at the time I was actually with for 5 years. We're on good notes right now, so everything there is very blessed, and I'm happy for that. But obviously that did take a big part of my life because I was 19, and I've said it already, I was still a shithead at the time. If you haven't noticed, I was a shithead for a good amount of years there. So
That's past now, though.
yeah, a little bit. It depends what kind of shithead we're talking about here. But yeah, that did take a big toll on me. I was very excited to be a dad, and I was super into it 100%. That wasn't the question that was like I wouldn't consider that part like one of my fuck ups. I think is how maybe I handle it and start to continue going forward with my life because I didn't really change a lot of things. Like, so after a while, like I did start like experimenting with some sort of drugs, and started drinking like a lot more and hanging out with like really bad people. And it kind of just started taking more and more of a toll on me. And working in the restaurant industry. So let me backtrack a little bit here. Sorry. So I went to culinary school when I was right before I had my son at 18. And then I graduated at 19. And then between like that year, I got my first sous chef position at 20. So there was just a lot going on at the time, and I felt like I was heading down like a really successful road because I became a sous chef at such a young age. And not to discredit anyone's position, but anybody can be a sous chef these days. So now that I look back at it, like then, like I could have handled the situation a lot better. But since I was a sous chef, I thought like I'm this cool guy. I was a sous chef. I'm the boss. Da da da. And I just put all my life into my work right there. So I was just working 6 days a week, 14-hour days. I barely saw my son. And then on the days where I'd get off work, I'd be super tired. And we'd go for drinks and we'd be out till 4 a.m. And it was just a very bad lifestyle just to be back into the restaurant again for 7 years. I did that for like maybe 3 years straight, living that type of lifestyle. So it got worse and worse and worse through the years. I did like lose an emotional connection with my son at the beginning. I was always present. I never just disappeared from his life. But there was just times where I was a shitty dad. I barely see him. When I do see him, I'd be tired from all the shit that I was doing from the last 5-6 days. And it just started taking a huge effect on me. And it was like the snowball effect. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So that is definitely some big mistakes that I made in my life. I put all my life into my work and then felt like I needed to reward myself with substances and alcohol and partying and just being an idiot. So I think that's a major mistake of mine. So
can I ask you about the industry, if you don't mind?
Yeah, please go ahead.
I mean, I'm always intrigued by it. I find that it's glorified potentially on shows, and there's this hierarchy. And I have a friend that I call Chef. I don't even call him by his name. And someone asked me his name once. It's like Chef. But there's kind of this combination between the perfection and creativity and this tension that exists between the two. And I think fine dining is one thing. You can watch, I love the chef shows and I love watching what they're trying to achieve and the experiences that we're doing. But I think at the same point, there's a lot of mediocrity in the whole process because some of the talent may or may not be there, right?
Yeah.
So you're working in an industry that is razor thin margins. We've seen that, particularly related to COVID right now. Tell me a little bit about, as the sous chef, the chef, and the hierarchy and the whole process, how it works together, or what's the innate conflict that there might be within the industry? Yeah,
well, it's already an industry with a super high turnover rate, and it's very, very competitive. So I think one of my friends who kind of mentioned it to me, you go every day wanting to be better than everybody else. And that's where it sucks you in and you start to put in all these crazy hours.
What drives that? Is that kind of built into the...
I think it's just more of just like, and people may disagree with me, I think it's more of like a pride thing, right? To be able to work your way up and to be able to have that position, like as a sous chef or an executive chef even. It's pride, and that's exactly what forces you to try to keep moving towards that decision. And since it's such a high turnover rate, like any other field, it could take several years, even decades to get to the top position, right? But in the restaurant industry, it could even take you 1 to 2 years, depending, right? It all just it all depends on like your work ethics, and of course your culinary skills
and the type of restaurant I'm assuming
and that too. So yeah, it's a very competitive field. There's always people just looking to kind of work their way up. It's also a very, I don't know what the word is, but it's almost sabotaging as well. Like people, like you do build a very strong like family relationship in the restaurant industry. That's one thing I do actually really, really love about it. But it's also dog eat dog at the same time. Like these person want to be the next chef, so they will do what they have to do and they know that they have to be better than the next person. So it's a very competitive, mind draining field. But
do you think of Gordon Ramsay and people like that? And I'm sure they're somewhat animated for television, and maybe it's edited or not. But did you ever experience anyone?
Yeah. Oh God, I could go for days for that. Yeah, I've and I'm not going to mention any names just for whatever reason. But I've had people slam stuff at the wall. They have bottles of mustard, and they go, "What the fuck?" And they go, and they throw on the wall. We're all just like, "Holy shit, this guy might kill us." So there's definitely that level of aggressiveness that you can see on like Gordon Ramsay, I guess. Apparently he's a really nice person in real life, but that does exist in some real restaurants. Not as common maybe nowadays, but when I was doing like my apprenticeships and growing up, like I was like a teenager in the restaurant industry, and maybe I deserved to be yelled at the time, but there was a lot of aggressiveness, a lot of yelling. Obviously I've never seen anything physical, but it definitely does exist. Maybe not as much now, but it's a pretty cutthroat industry for sure.
So what we always try to do is tie what we're talking to into other businesses. So whether it's tech or education or whatever it could be. So is there intimidation involved in the process? And is that, when you talked about the turnover, is that a lot of the reason for it potentially?
Well, the turnover, I don't know. There's so many restaurants in the world, let the city alone. So there's always more opportunities for people to come up, and I might be wrong, maybe this is just me, but I find that sometimes we can even just get bored easily, or the second that we don't find something that we like in this restaurant, we can find that from another restaurant. So there is a lot of jumping between restaurants. Like if you look at a chef's resume, most chef's resumes, you can probably see a good handful of restaurants. Like if you look at mine, there's probably like 11 restaurants since I was 15.
Right.
But as for the intimidation, definitely. But I think the intimidation actually might be a good thing though, because there does need to be a level of discipline in a kitchen, right? Or else you're gonna have 15-year-old me's running around everywhere, and nobody wants that. So from like the chef to the line cooks, it does need to be a little bit of intimidation and disciplinary to keep a tight running kitchen, because like my friend Alex likes to call it almost like militant or like military style, where you call it an order and everybody goes, yes chef, da da da, blah blah blah, and then needs to start cooking right away. So I think that is how you run a proper kitchen, but there's definitely a balance on how to be disciplinary than throwing mustard bottles at the wall and screaming fuck this, fuck that, you piece of shit. Like I've seen a lot of different ways to, or people have ran their team. So
were there moments where this is just not for me? So it's going back to, I'm trying to make the parallels here of employees, whatever. So you're in there, you understand what you're trying to, was this your plan to become a chef? And was that the goal, or was it just a job at the time and you're a placeholder? What were you doing?
I think from 15 to 18, it was just a job at the time. And then after, when I went to my first culinary school. So I went to culinary school twice, like I said, I didn't mention. I went when I was 18. I did the chef training program at St. Louis. And then around the time where I became sous chef, I did just a 1-year apprenticeship program at Fanshawe College in London. I think it was between those two periods of culinary schools where I realized that this is actually the career I want to take. So I did actually want to be a chef, and I even thought about wanting to like own restaurants in the future. But after I see like the lifestyle and like the amount of time that it takes from your life, like especially as a restaurant owner, like it's a life investment. I don't really want to make that investment in reality, right? So that's kind of what inspired me to launch my business, Underground Flavor Group, is to kind of just have it as a platform where to give chefs the opportunity to cook with whatever the hell they want, be who they want to be, and I think I said to you, with no bullshit attached. It's just supposed to kind of just be that platform and give them the freedom of creativity through these events and caterings that we offer. Okay,
so in the Fuck Up Night theme, you alluded to it a little bit early. You were this 19-year-old, 15-year-old to 19-year-old shit. You're a good guy now. What is, how would,
so they say.
If you could kind of tell us about the journey down, if that's in fact where you went, and that's when we talked a little bit about that was all about. So what were the feelings through the whole process, and then when do you feel you bottomed out, or what do you think caused that?
So, like I said before, like I lived that bad lifestyle for a good several years, like 2 to 3 years. But then it started getting really bad, where it almost felt like I just couldn't get out of it. Where I'd feel like I would just, like I drank like a lot, and I did like a lot of drugs at the time. So I felt like it was just a really bad routine that I just couldn't get out of, and I got trapped. And the relationships I were in became toxic because of my fault and because of my mental stability. So I started just going through this really bad routine that I was just really, really, really trapped in. So when I felt like I hit rock bottom, I feel like my only way to save myself was to just drop everything, So the next day where I felt like that, I quit my job. I removed anybody who I thought was really negative in my life, removed them from my life. And then I honestly kind of just fell off the face of the earth for like a year as I tried to kind of just get myself back into it and just come right back to life and like rejuvenate my lifestyle and be more of a positive person and more healthy. That's one thing I've tried to focus on as well. So did you reach out to anyone? Did you have counselors or mentors, or did you have someone? No, I was too stubborn for that. I still am, to be completely honest. I'm a pretty stubborn person. I didn't reach out to nobody, although I did have people reaching out to me all the time. Like my mom, God bless her soul, she always knows when her baby boy, something's going on with him, right? So she would always reach out to me, and again, I was too stubborn, so a lot of times I would say I'm fine, blah, blah, blah. because I was the type of person who maybe didn't show it like right away. Like I would show up to work smiling as if nothing was going on, right? But when I get home, that's when things were changing. So only those people who were really, really, really close to me kind of knew that I was going through something. So just recently, when I launched Underground Flavor Group, is when I actually kind of started talking about like all the nights that I had with like suicide thoughts and these crazy like self-harming nights and the drugs and the alcohol and just this self-hate that I had, where I wasn't even like seeing my son because there's days where like he would even like want to be with me, right? Because I was just too tired and I couldn't do anything. So I think that's where I started realizing like, hey, I either change myself now or I'm fucked in this forever. So I think I mentioned when you and I were chatting before, like I thought maybe just things would naturally get better over time, but I see people that were twice my age that were also going through the same thing. Like I know I'm not the only person who has felt like this in the restaurant industry. Not to blame the restaurant industry because we're all our own people, but it's a very tough industry and it's also easy to fall a victim to it. You get into it and then it sucks your life up, and then anything else that you have going on in your personal life, it just kind of blends together. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
yeah. So I mean, it's an industry that's very difficult, particularly now in this cancel culture. You know, one bad review, like how does that? I mean, again, we're watching it from the outside, but I always think, you know, you look at peripheral discussions on Yelp or different reviews, TripAdvisor reviews, and I always say you have to discard the ones and the fives, because fives are often biased because it might be, you know, I always think they're suspect in the sense that they had a friend or someone wrote it themselves.
It's always possible, yeah.
And the ones are just, you know, it can't be that bad sometimes. But how does that outside influence affect the morale and the pressure internally to execute? Because it's no different than a tech company that's coming up with a product or its user experience. So what influence does that have on the staff?
Well, it does influence the staff. I know like a lot of times we're in restaurants and we're reading a negative review. They're like, oh, fuck this person. He doesn't know shit. But they do obviously affect it from looking at it from the outside view, because I know a lot of people that if they look at the reviews of a restaurant and they see bad reviews, they're going to be like, no, I'm not going to go to there. So those are really important. And honestly, like if there's a reason why those reviews are there. So if there's something that really bad did happen, then they have the right to put that there. But I feel like there are a lot of, I don't know if I should say this word, like sensitive people who make one bad experience and make it sound like 100 times worse, and those people do really suck, because as we clearly noticed through this pandemic that the restaurant industry, it was always on thin ice. It can crash at any moment, and it's a really crazy investment just to open up a restaurant to begin with. And if you're just going to shit on the restaurant from one minor thing without maybe even giving them a second try or a third try, I think that's really harsh in reality. So it does pressure us in a sense, because usually the owners are like, we need to do this better, and we sit down, we usually have meetings about it. But at the same time, we kind of say like, fuck those people. Those people are assholes.
So you got to be pretty thick-skinned. But having said that, you got to listen to what's going on.
Yeah, and then, sorry, like I spoke with the chef, Kyle Rennie from King Street Trio. I interviewed him for the Joint Co. And he said, like, no matter what, you're always going to get those negative reviews. You could cook for 1,000 people, and no matter what, there's always going to be someone who just doesn't like it, or someone who's going to go leave a bad review. And you can't try to nitpick all that, or else you're just going to pull your hair out. So you kind of just have to accept it, and then just consistently just keep trying to be better and making more people happy than you are making upset.
When I ask people who move to our community, I often ask them, what would they bring with them from their community that was great? Say they lived in whatever, Windsor or Guelph or Kingston, whatever. I said, you can't bring water, you can't bring mountains. Those, you know, the obvious ones that would make Waterloo region that much better. And more often than not, they talk about a restaurant or a festival, and they're often food related. Yeah. That really build and drive the community. So I think it has a massive impact. Mona asked a question just on what role does the restaurant industry and the hospitality industry have on building community, and did you feel the pressure of being inclusive, or is it fighting all the time? Like, do you feel like we're all in this together, or did you feel like we were fighting, or is it a combination of both? That's a great question. You know, like I'll speak on Waterloo region, obviously more specifically. I think that the restaurant scene here is fantastic, and it's growing like crazy. And I'm sure there obviously, since they're businesses, I'm sure there obviously is competitiveness behind it all, but they do rally together. Like I know the downtown Kitchener scene between all those restaurants down there, that they are all really close, because I worked downtown for several years, and the communities, the chefs, the owners, they all kind of rallied around together. They supported each other. But the scene here is fantastic. Like, for example, a chef I used to work with, Alex Yonke, he was diagnosed with cancer, and they held this sandwich fundraiser, and I think there was about
if I'm not mistaken, about 30 or maybe even more restaurants that offered a sandwich under his name, and then every person who ordered that sandwich got delivered to it may have been a charity. I don't know the exact donation, but it just shows an example that when it matters, people rally together in the restaurant. So the scene here is fantastic. As for a chef's perspective, for me personally, I love the idea of building a community behind food. And again, that's one of the main things we try to do with Underground Flavor Group, just meeting people, bringing people together, and just the socializing aspect behind it all is one of the biggest motivations of being a chef, at least from my perspective, 100%.
Okay. That's good to hear, because I think it's defining culture often is by food in a lot of cases, and I always think of experiences that I've had and people that have had. It's, you know, what do you like about certain culture? It's often the food, and I think we've got a great diversity. I grew up here, as did you, and I mean, it was not nearly what it is now. We can pretty much get any type of cultural food at this point, which is
absolutely.
really quite
and
exciting.
I love that 100%.
Okay, so back up the fuck up. You went deep in the sense that it was really soul searching, and you talked about some of these things, and parallel that to a lot of businesses that feel that they're alone. The CEO of an organization feels that they are all in this, and everyone else is just taking off them right now. So they, you know, it gets very, very difficult. Sometimes they get aggressive in the sense that it's everyone else's fault, and other times they're soul searching. So you went kind of invisible for a year. What did you do during that year? Did you work, or did you?
So during that year, I decided just to go part-time, which part-time in the restaurant industry is still full-time.
Right.
three shifts a week, you're still doing 40 hours. So I did go part-time, and I actually wasn't fully knowing what I was going to do yet. I just know I just needed to do something and get away. So I stepped down from management, and I just went to a different restaurant just to be a line cook. And just kind of just learn a little bit, kind of gain myself back together, gain my relationships with my family, and a better relationship with my son. And most importantly, a better relationship with myself, which I guess I should say, because that's one thing is there came to a point where I wasn't investing in myself anymore. I was investing in the restaurants I was in, and then I mean, that was pretty much it. And then I kind of started forgetting about myself and my health and my sanity. So I think that was the biggest fuck up of all, is not investing in myself. So that's what I started doing after I kind of stepped down from management. I was just cooking, and then I knew I needed to just do something different. So my one favorite thing from the last management sous chef position that I had, my favorite thing is when people would book us out for a private dinner, and then they would just request like a surprise menu. That was my absolute favorite thing, because it's a super personable experience. The people who you're cooking for are getting to know you through your food. So I would create them these menus just from the top of my head, and between each course I'd go out them. I would go out to them. I would chat with them, explain to the food, and from my understanding, they loved everything from every dinner that we did. So I want to be able to capture that exact passion that I did love so much, and be able to embrace that into something new. So that's kind of where I started thinking about how I can create a platform where we could just do that, where we could just cook what we want, and let people just know who we are and embrace us. So that's kind of where like the underground aspect comes from Underground Flavor Group, is that it's just these chefs, underground chefs that are just coming out of nowhere and just offering these amazing meals, and you get to know more about them and learn about them and know who they are through the beauty of food. Because I mean, 50 years ago, chefs weren't really as broadcasted as they may be now. Like, we have all these Netflix shows and YouTube and Gordon Ramsay that we get to see all these amazing things. So now that we can broadcast ourselves and be known into the city and into the community, I think I knew I needed to build a platform that can really, 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 really utilize that. So tell us about that journey then. So you start as one, and then what's happening? What's happening with now, and how's it being embraced by the industry, and B, how's it being embraced by the audience? Yeah, so I didn't really grow up like entrepreneurial. Like, I know like a lot of people say like, oh, like, you know, I grew up with it, I was inventing stuff at 4. Like, I wasn't like that. Honestly, like, I wasn't. I when I got in the restaurant industry, I was determined that this was my life for the rest of my life. And there was points where I was okay with it, but so I wasn't really entrepreneurial. So I didn't really know like how to start it. So when we did first launch, we just kind of came up as like this like underground separate club. We had like no website, no like office space, like absolutely nothing. We were just through Instagram, and that's literally it. Now we would just announce a date with no location, no nothing, no information, just a date. And then like we would say like what the theme is, like a 6-course menu, and then the first ones that we did sold out within like I think 11 days. It was about 30 seats. So I was like, okay, you know, this is kind of cool. People like it. So we just kind of started going more and more and more into that. We started doing more and more dinners. They all started selling out. So I was like, oh shit, like look at me, starting my own business. This is freaking cool. So I want to really just utilize that because it got received very well right away by the community, by the restaurant industry too. Because like, even though I'm the creator and yeah, I'm here speaking about it, I don't like being like the main face of Underground Flavor Group. I want to be of a community style of company. So each event, I would reach out to a different chef from a different restaurant, right? And it's a good way for them to advertise themselves or even the restaurants that they're working in, because people go there, they taste the food and be like, oh, I'm the head chef of, you know, said restaurant. And then from there, they could gain more traction and new customers possibly. So that's also where the catering aspect started picking up as well, because people started reaching out to us and it'd be like, hey, like we want like an Indian type of catering. Are you able to do that? So that's where I got the idea to start like subcontracting out like different chefs as well. So I would kind of bring them on, not hire them, but bring them on. And then I would just sign out like contracts, and then the right chef who fits that contract would take that. So they just kind of slowly, gradually started turning more and more and more into a business. At first, I wanted it almost to be like more of a movement.
Right.
And then about like 6 months after the business launch, I quit my part-time job and I went full-time with it. And I tried taking all the right precautions to actually turn it into a business. Like I actually got the business license for it, like an office space, and did all like that background stuff to make it like an actual business. And then, yeah, so when we launched, I really didn't know like where it was going to go, but I mean, we're going right now. So I think we did shut down with the pandemic,
right?
And we don't plan on doing any major events soon. But I met my partner a year ago, and then we started thinking about doing like this online like website, because we didn't have a website, right? And then through that is where people can just go to the website and find a package that is offered by these chefs and just book them directly through there. So it's almost like, I don't want to say it because it's weird to say, but like an Uber Eats of like catering or private chefs, where people could just say you're in Cambridge and you open up the site and you can see like what private chefs and caterers around you are offering, and you can just book them directly through the site. So that's going to be the next step, and we launched that on July 13th. So since the pandemic happened, that's just what we've been working on full time, just through that website.
It's fascinating. How do you feel about picky eaters?
I want to say bad stuff, but my son is a picky eater, so and like
it's my pet peeve in life.
Yeah,
I eat everything.
So I was a very, very picky eater when I was younger, right? Like I mentioned before, like I only like chicken fingers. I would look at avocado and I'd be like, ugh, what the hell? I'd look at fish, I'd be like, no. But weirdly enough, I liked anchovies. Out of everything in the world, I loved anchovies.
That's bizarre.
It is. But over time, as I got through the industry, I started appreciating more foods because I started seeing it. So I think people just need to be exposed to it, and people are just scared to try it. I think that's really it. It's just their fear of trying something new because they're so comfortable with something. And not to like talk shit about anybody, but we have a lot of picky eaters here in the city, and I think maybe that's why the Waterloo region is a tad behind in like food trends and whatnot, like compared to like Hamilton or Toronto or even Windsor. I think maybe like we're heading towards the right direction 100%, but I think maybe that's why it's been a bit of a slower process in bringing all these nicer restaurants, because I speak with chefs all the time and they're like, oh, how cool would it be if we had this fine dining French restaurant or this fine dining Spanish restaurant? But the thing that everybody always says at the end of those sentences is Kitchener's not ready for it yet.
Interesting.
And in reality, it's true, because like we've had these amazing places in the city that had to get shut down because they didn't receive that much traction, and they were incredible. So
one thing from that industry, I've heard this over and over, is that the talent required to execute the menu is maybe the talent pool, or maybe it's the attitude might be a little shallow. So sometimes you see menus contract to easy things that you can, and because the reality, as you said, the transient nature of the industry, you're building an industry around people and their capabilities and their capacity to do it, and suddenly they just don't show. And you have to parachute somebody else in to create something that was magic. Yeah. And I've talked to a number of business owners, whether they be the owner of the business or a chef, and they're saying we'd love to keep things like that on the menu that are more. But the reality is we can't get people to execute. Is that the truth in the industry?
100%. It really sucks, because I've worked in restaurants where we bring in these like exotic meats, and it's like, this is freaking incredible, but you only sell like one order, and you really do have to just offer what the community wants at the time, right? So that's where I think that's why there's maybe a slow process in getting like more and more of these different types of restaurants here, even though we're doing great. But it's just getting those people just to try new stuff. So you definitely have to readjust the menu into what the community wants, and a lot of times it's very easy and sometimes quick stuff. Like I know it's not just Kitchener Waterloo, obviously, but people really like quick food nowadays. Like they want things to be at their table within like 10 minutes, which is reasonable, but to enjoy sometimes a real dining experiences, sometimes meals take up to, I've worked in restaurants where it's like a 30-minute wait to get your plate. But those types of dishes that do take 30 minutes, you know, there's so much history behind those plates. And like I know we spoke about Paul Beamer over the phone. He is a great example of a chef who kind of just doesn't really give a shit about like what like the community wants. I don't want to say that, but he puts whatever the hell he wants on the menu, and sometimes there are long wait times, and he brings on these meats that I haven't seen being served in different restaurants. So I think Paul Beamer is one of the people who are definitely behind revolutionizing the Waterloo region food and beverage industry. And we need to continue supporting those people 100% because they're the ones who are going to be changing the way we see food and eat food here in the Waterloo region. And there's obviously many other chefs as well who are doing the same thing. But Paul Beamer is the first one that comes to my head when I was thinking.
So through this pandemic and the impact on education and children and homeschooling, there's a lot of people dealing with some crazy shit right now. When I talk to anyone about it, I mean, fortunately, my children are out in the sense they're either in school or working, and they're doing well. Is it a good industry for a 15-year-old to go into, or what are the landmines? And I guess the question from Alex is what would you warn, or what would you caution someone getting into the industry to be aware of?
It's a great question. I think maybe not warn them, but just the advice that I would give them is to just focus on yourself throughout the entire time. Of course, prioritize your business, prioritize your position, of course, but don't forget about yourself. Drink lots of water. You're working on a hot line for 14 hours and you're sweating buckets, and just make sure that your mental health and your physical health is always your priority before anything else, though, because people give their lives for this industry, for an industry that doesn't make like more than $100,000 a year, like each like positions, I guess. I mean, but just they need to prioritize themselves, and don't forget to always focus on themselves and make sure that they are mentally okay, physically okay, and then keep going. I mean, it is a good industry because once you work your way up, there are some amazing positions. There's like food and beverage managers, there are executive chefs, and there is some really good stuff. So as long as you can focus on yourself, you'll be totally fine in the restaurant. It's just my problem was that I didn't focus on myself, right? So I fell victim right into it. I put my entire life into it and forgot about everything else about me. So that's just my only or my biggest advice I'd give is just focus on yourself the entire time. Yeah, of course, like I said, prioritize your business, of course, the work, but don't forget about yourself.
Is there other industries and other businesses that you think parallel the hospitality and restaurant business, or is it just that unique?
I mean, it's kind of hard because I've never worked in any other industry in my entire life, so I'm not 100% sure. But I'm not going to say here and say restaurant industry, oh, we get it the worst, poor us. I'm sure there's many other industries as well that go through very similar shit or even worse in that case. So to name one, I maybe can't, but I for sure, 100%, there's definitely other industries that are very similar to the restaurant industry.
So talking about that, I mean, you've been in it. It's impacted you. COVID has a direct impact on your ability to drive any revenue this year.
Yeah.
Without being super negative, but bottom line, let's be real. What do you think's going to happen in Waterloo region and beyond to the restaurant industry, and what are you hearing inside as a result of COVID?
Well, I mean, we've already seen so many restaurants shut down, and unfortunately, not to be a negative Nancy, there's probably going to be more shutting down as well. I'm hoping that all these restaurants can survive, but just the reality of it, especially with restaurants that don't have patios, like they're still shut down, right? And hoping that they can rely on takeout. So there definitely is a long road for all those restaurants. But in the long run, when things start to get a little bit better, I think it's also a great time it's a destroy and rebuild type of situation. So it's going to be a great time to kind of refocus on, what we're bringing here to the region, and people maybe after seeing what happened, people will be more inspired to do something different, bring different types of restaurants, offer better food, because they know that at any time shit can just fuck you, right? Like there's nothing as secured, I guess. And a pandemic clearly just showcased how easy it is just for everything just to stop, and you lost your job or your business is shut down. So I think it can be a good destroy rebuild situation for the future. I think there'll be amazing more restaurants coming up. As you can see, like patios are packed, so the restaurant industry will never die. It will never will. People love eating. I might go sit on a patio after this. Who knows? But once things get back to normal, eventually, whenever that is, I think the restaurant industry will be booming like crazy, and people will be more excited to embrace new types of restaurants and more types of food and drinks out there. So I think it'll be great in the long run.
So you touched on this. We have a question. How did your work-life balance affect your home life and relationships? I mean, I think what we see is the tech bros, you know, or the tech people. You just gotta you work hard, you work long, you do. You know, Google as an example, they'll feed you. Get to work, we'll feed you, we'll keep you here. Get this done. So how did I mean, I think we know, but how did that work-life balance affect your ability to execute your life?
It took a major effect, and that was the main thing that, like, I consider like my main fuck up, is that there really was no work-life balance. It was just work. And I had relationships throughout like all those crazy years, and it did affect them a lot because, one, like I was just trapped in my job like 24/7, and not only that, I also had my son. So like I had like this little freaking time for in a relationship. So obviously nobody wanted that, right? And I was struggling with myself at the time. So it took a very big toll on my like personal relationships, on my family, of course. Like I said a million times, like I prioritize work like over anything. So it affected my relationship with my son. Like I didn't see him a lot. My like immediate family as well. So the work-life balance was definitely not even in the picture at the time. It was just straight work. And then, of course, at the time where I was dealing with like substance abuse, that was just kind of was like, as weird as it sounds, it was almost just like at the time I looked at it like as a reward for working so hard. Oh, I deserve this. Or, you know, like I work 6 days a week. I can, on the 7th day a week, I want to, you know, indulge and have some fun. So yeah, the work-life balance really sucked, and that was the major thing, again, like what inspired me to launch my own business, so I can just create the proper work-life style that I want. So as busy as I am, I don't, unless I have like a special event or a catering or something, I don't do anything on the weekends. I spend that time with my son and my family and my friends. So
with the lessons learned in the industry, if you were going to start an industry a new restaurant right now, and for those that are there's a lot of people that have a desire to do so.
Yeah.
How would it look? What would be different, and what things would you create and instill as you know, mission critical and vision focused to allow them to succeed?
If I were to open a restaurant, shit, that's a good question. Honestly,
from the bottom up, I mean, what is the balance issue? How do you preach that? How do you enforce that? How do you measure and manage it? And how do you not fall into the traps of the industry?
Yeah, I mean, like when I was in restaurants, like there were like amazing managers that did go out of their way to try to make sure that I would be able to like see my son and try to like fix the schedules. Fuck, that's a good question. How I would do it, honestly, I guess like maybe. If I were to open a restaurant, which will probably never happen, but if I were to, I would create like a certain type of menu that's only offered during a certain time period. So, you know, people aren't in the restaurant from 9 a.m. until 1 a.m. So I like the restaurants to only offer dinner services, right? Because people get to have their mornings with their family. They come in at like noon or 1, and then they get to go home by like midnight, maybe, depending. So I'd probably open one of those styles of restaurants, and then I don't know. Like I feel like I'm just like making things off the top of my head. Like maybe close on like a Sunday, Monday as well, so everybody has like 2 guaranteed days off in a row. But then of course, like I don't know how that would take a toll on business and not being open 7 days a week. So I think the balance is in the industry. It's notoriously difficult. It's really difficult. Like you asked me that question, my mind's like trying to work so hard. Like how the hell would I do it? Like
there is no answer.
I don't want to say there's no way, because of course there is way. Like there's a reason why there's 1,000 restaurants. Like there is ways to do it.
Right.
I honestly don't know how.
Question. What do you think KW's food scene will look like 10 years from now?
Can I ask who asked that question?
Nope.
Okay. I feel like I know who did. I think it's going to be fantastic, honestly. Like I said, it's a great destroy and rebuild situation. So I think in 10 years from now, we'll be catching up to like the Hamilton scene, the Toronto scene, especially as they continue spreading towards us as well. It's going to be great. Like it's already amazing, aside from this shitty pandemic that we had. But we're going to see more and more restaurants coming up. Like I'd love to see more and more cultural restaurants. Like I always tell people, I'd love to see like a fine dining, like Spanish or like Latin American restaurant, kind of like Lolo on Lobby Bar, for example, how they're like Southeast Asian, but you know, you can dress nice, you take a date, get a bottle of wine, there's a lot of smaller shops that we have here, but I think like a nicer Spanish restaurant. So I think eventually we'll be able to see those type of things, and we're just gonna see more and more coming in.
More cultural diversity, more representation. Interesting. I ask everyone this question: what scares you?
I mean, this is kind of a weird answer, but like I think I'm a good driver, but I'm kind of scared of driving sometimes because I don't know. I've seen so many crazy things, and like I have my son in my car. But I guess the more, I don't want to call it like a basic answer, but as a father, like I'm scared of like my son going through what I'm going through. I don't know how to properly like put the word on that, but I fear for him. You know, like I care about that kid so much, and I don't want him to go through the same footsteps I went through or what some of my friends went through who aren't even with us anymore. Like that's my biggest fear. Me, I feel like I'm fearless at this point. Like I could just fuck it, give me whatever the hell you want. I'll find a way to deal with it. Which, I mean, if you want me to say like spiders scare the hell out of me too. Like I could say stuff like that too. I'm getting very like
everyone's
personal.
got a different answer. No, that's really
spiders scare the shit out of me, and that's like probably like the main reason why I got a cat. Because when I see a spider, I just grab my cat. I'm just like, do something with it, do something. So little things like that for sure. But my biggest fear, 100%, is just what's in the future for my son, because I want him to be healthy. I want him to focus on himself and make the right decisions. But I guess that's probably what every parent feels. I'm sure you felt the same way before, right?
Absolutely. There were times when I questioned, was it sane to bring a child into this world?
I've thought the same thing too, 100%. Especially with everything going on in this world, and I mean, who knows? So live it one day at a time, I guess, is the best thing.
So a lot of what you shared is, and as we wind down, is super applicable beyond the restaurant industry. It's about the tech, it's about the push, it's about losing sight of the goal, and really is the goal money, and is the goal. So that's the thing too. I mean, I think people when they open a restaurant, they don't do it to make millions of dollars.
Yeah,
I think the assumptions of success are very different and very unique, and whether it's a gratitude of feeding people or doing something unique is fantastic, and sometimes it's just to pay the rent, pay the bills, and create a lifestyle, right?
Absolutely.
So
well, like, yeah, it's like what you said. Success relies on the eyes of the person who's working towards it, I guess. Like, success for some people can be, you know, a nice house, fancy car, lots of money, or it can be just feeding people and the gratitude behind that. For me specifically, success for me is just to be able to just have a proper lifestyle with my family and a solid job. Like, of course, like, we all want money. I mean, if I could turn it into $1 million company, then why the hell not? Like, 100%. But my main goal, 100% behind it all, is just to have that platform, have that running, and me be able to just live a happy life, you know, go to a cottage, be half naked, gain weight, and just live my life like that. That's a dream for me. And to have that platform and have that also available for other people who may have gone through the same thing with me, or just are looking for that freedom to be who they want to be. And when I say that, it's because there's a lot of, when we were talking about earlier, we were talking about how sometimes you have to change menus to suit like the community's needs, and that can piss a chef off like a lot. Like, it's like sometimes you're being told what to cook, and to be a chef, it's to showcase your culinary skills. Like, regardless of what people say, to be a chef is to cook what you want to cook and make people love your food. That's the whole motivation behind that. So that's what that platform is just to kind of give them that option to just go on it and cook whatever the hell they want, offer whatever the hell they want. If the community accepts it, they do. If they don't, I mean,
again, a lot of parallels to the tech industry where the CEOs and founders think they know exactly what people want.
Yeah.
And the reality is the audience is going to drive the process. So that tension and that frustration happens between the two. Okay, how do we find an underground flavor group, and what would the ideal experience be for you that we could offer out to somebody post pandemic when the world settles?
Well, so the way to find Underground Flavor Group right now, so we are still working on the website. It launches July 13th. So after July 13th, you can definitely find us through the website.
And
but right now,
we'll post it on our site.
Right now, you can definitely just find us on our social media. That's where we are the most active right now. Like, we do have a Facebook page, but Instagram is where we're 100% the most active. We were just hosting like weekly competitions and whatnot. But that's definitely where you can find us right now. And then, like, a little bit more about us, like we're just a community. We're a community of chefs and caterers and even mixologists, like bar professionals, sommeliers, wine professionals, who just team up, and we offer these amazing, like, one in a lifetime experiences. I mean, before the pandemic, obviously.
Right.
So, I mean, that's who we are. We're a community. We're a gang. That's what I'll say.
Food gang.
Yeah, food gang. But yeah, and then after the pandemic, like we're pretty much creating like your one-stop shop to like all different types of food caterings and events. So all through that website, you'll be able to see all these different packages, foods, menus that are being offered by all these local chefs and caterers, and hopefully one day like mixologists and whatnot. Um, so that's definitely what we're doing. We started off as a movement just to keep showcasing these chefs who want to be heard, who want to be seen, and want to cook what they want to cook. Um, and then, of course, we're always going to stand by what pushed me towards building this business. So, like our first event, Industry Night, it was actually a night to resemble pretty much everything I'm talking about right now, hence
Right.
the word Industry Night, to just resemble like the mental health and addiction crisis that happens in the food and beverage industry. It's a nonprofit event. We host it we want to host it every year. The one got canceled this year, obviously, because of the pandemic. But all proceeds for that one go right to the Canadian Mental Health Association. So we'll be doing that one every year. Since that was a motivation to what built this. And of course, we want to support it and showcase it and not have it so hidden that there's a lot of us that do struggle within that industry. And it's such a cutthroat industry because, you know how many times I've told people like all this shit that I'm telling you right now. And like, I've heard, but like all you do is like flip burgers and shit like that. And like, I want to fucking flip the table when people say that. And like, I get so angry because it is a difficult industry. Like, it's a lot, so it's time for it to be heard and showcased, and that's exactly what we're going to continue doing through our business. We're going to showcase it and keep bringing on as many different chefs and caterers as we can, and just giving them the freedom to do whatever the hell they want to do and make money from it, of course, at the end of the day.
Well, I love the motivation. I love the impetus for what you've created, so we will do our best to amplify that. We wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Mona, good assist for introducing me to...
Mona is fantastic as well, and she jumped on board with us last year. And she's just been a great help. She does a lot of my media because I'm not a techie person whatsoever. If I showed you the shit I tried to edit up, she's probably laughing. She's watching right now like they're bad. Amazing. So Mona is very great for that.
Well, thanks for sharing your story. I mean, we talked at the onset about the truth, the honesty, and the vulnerability. I mean, you went to a dark, dark place, and there are people that go there and we never know it, and there are those that go it very publicly. And some of the chefs' stories in town have been very public about addiction and things like that going on. I don't want to paint this as a negative, but the bottom line, it seems to be an industry that, because of the late nights, because of the the different motivation, common, it's something that we need to be aware of. I admire underground flavor to allow the chefs and those people that have spent the time to hone their craft and to become an experts in this to do really what is important to them, which is create experiences and satisfy the audience. So thanks so much for sharing everything today.
My pleasure.
Thanks to Jason Hines at Bearskin and Par, McKelly Greco, and Janet Holmes. Hopefully you're going to have some good content in here about the journey which is going on. We're going to take a few months off, or we're going to take at least the month of July off because people need to, I don't know if they can get the cottages or whatever and demand. But I'd like to offer this to everybody. If you have a story that you want to tell, reach out to us and share it. It's amazing how many people do believe that this is a pay it forward initiative, and they will, by sharing their story.
It definitely is. Like, sorry, I
no.
hope I can speak. It definitely is, and like I was saying at the beginning, like I love it because I feel like maybe I haven't seen all the interviews, so I may be wrong, but I feel like a lot of people sometimes they talk about like wrong investments that they made, talk about business wise. But I wanted to come on here and talk about my personal fuck ups and when I was in like a really dark place, and I want people to know that like you're not trapped in that. Like the first step is always the fucking hardest. Like it's the hardest to do, but once you take that first freaking step, like it's one road from there on out. So yeah, I want people to know that because I felt like I was trapped and I'm fucked, and my son's gonna hate me and this is my life. But it took that one extremely dramatic step, and I'm very happy and I'm very proud with where I am right now. And I know there's people who went through the same similar progress, so I feel like they deserve to be recognized and applauded for sure.
Well, we when people fuck up, we get content.
Yeah.
So this
sure.
I said this we'll continue these as long as we have content and stories to share. Yours is unique and yours is very special. So thanks for sharing that. So for everybody out there, be safe. In my opinion, hate me if you're not, wear a fucking mask so we can get through this quicker than later. Be safe, fuck COVID, and thank you very much, Arnold.
Thank you.
Joining
it's
us
a pleasure, and I agree. Fuck COVID. It's fucking hard.
Thanks.